Life can be hard when you're different, but things were hellish 100 years ago. Parents would often sell their kids to a circus or freak show, signing them up for a lifetime of exploitation and ridicule. While some performers could only be gawped at due to the nature of their disability, some performed tricks for the stunned and baying crowds. So, join us for today's video, as we're going to take a look at the lives of the 15 most creepy circus freaks you won't believe existed. Number 15. Tom Jack, the Ice King. Carl Brew, known to crowds as Tom Jack, built his life around illusion and endurance. Born in Austria with albinism, his pale skin and light eyes made him a curiosity long before he stepped into a ring. He started young, apprenticed to a traveling magician, and learned escape artistry the hard way: locks, ice tanks, and fireproof boxes. Houdini was his hero, and Carl chased that same thrill, branding himself the Ice King. He became Europe's only albino escape artist, performing in freezing tanks, buried snow coffins, and locked crates dragged through rivers. His look made him unforgettable: white skin, white hair, and a stare that looked half supernatural under torchlight. He treated his condition not as weakness, but as a trademark. Crowds came for the danger, but stayed for the defiance. Brew never became rich, but he earned respect in a cruel business. His nickname stuck, not for his color, but for the calm he kept inside the ice. Number 14. The Two-Headed Boy of Bengal. In 1783, a boy was born in Bengal with a second head fused upside down to his own. Locals called him cursed. In fact, his midwife tried to kill him by throwing him into a fire, but he survived, scarred, but alive. His parents took him to Calcutta and began exhibiting him for money. They kept him hidden under a sheet between showings, but curiosity grew. British officers and doctors came to see the two-headed boy. The second head blinked, drooled, and even moved its lips. When the main head was fed, the second salivated. When the boy slept, the other stayed awake. He died at 4 after a cobra bite. His body was stolen, dissected, and the skull sent to England. Doctors confirmed both heads had separate brains. The remains still sit in London's Hunterian Museum. His case, now called Craniopagus parasiticus, remains one of the earliest documented. He was born unwanted, died displayed, and still rests behind exhibition glass. Number 13. The Regurgitating Geek. Waldo didn't look like a circus freak. He wore glasses, dressed neatly, and spoke politely. That made his act worse, or better, depending on how strong your stomach was. On stage, he swallowed objects, like coins, stones, and marbles, and brought them back up on command. Sometimes it was water, sometimes live mice. The act was simple and horrifying. He called it skill. Doctors called it insanity. Crowds couldn't look away. Women fainted. Men gagged. "The Great Waldo," posters read, "the man who eats the impossible." He made a living doing it, moving from circuses to vaudeville halls, always playing the line between curiosity and disgust. There was no trick. He trained his throat and stomach to obey. While others relied on illusion, Waldo relied on endurance. It wasn't pretty, but it was his. He faded out of history when shock lost its market, but for a time, he was the only man who could make the ordinary terrifying with a swallow. Number 12. The Jones Twins. The Jones twins never had a chance to grow up. They were conjoined infants shown across America in the late 1800s, exhibited as curiosities while still in diapers. Promoters didn't see kids, they saw profit. Their bodies were turned into tickets. Doctors examined them, strangers poked and stared. Their parents, likely desperate for money, agreed to let them tour. The twins lived for only 15 months. Half of that time was spent under circus tents. There are no records that show how they died, whether it was illness or neglect, but the cause barely mattered. They were gone before they could walk. There were no headlines, no protests, and no outrage. Their story was swallowed by bigger names and louder shows. The Jones twins weren't remembered as performers or stars, just as another entry in the long list of lives turned into business. In a world obsessed with spectacle, they were children denied even a moment of peace. Number 11. The Fiji mermaid. This was Barnum's greatest lie and his proudest success. Made from the torso of a monkey sewn onto the tail of a fish, it looked horrifying and convincing under dim lights. Barnum didn't invent it, he just knew how to sell it. He bought it from a sailor and turned it into a national craze. The newspapers called it a miracle. Scientists argued over it. Barnum printed fake letters, made lectures, and showed it in cramped, smoky rooms where light hid the stitching. The goal wasn't to make people believe, it was to make them doubt. That doubt sold tickets. The mermaid was later exposed as a hoax, but it didn't matter. By then, Barnum had tripled attendance at his shows. The Fiji mermaid wasn't about truth. It was about control. Barnum proved that in America, illusion pays better than honesty. The fake mermaid died long ago, but its lesson never did. Number 10. Nicholas Ferry. Nicholas Ferry was born in 1741 in Plain, France, a small child who never grew beyond 3 feet tall. King Stanislaw of Poland brought him to court as a living novelty, calling him Bébé. He lived inside the Château de Luneville, spoiled and surrounded by servants, but also mocked and controlled. Though treated kindly at first, he became a toy for the court, dressed up, paraded, and laughed at. When another dwarf, the sharp-minded Joseph Borovlaski, visited, comparisons humiliated him. Out of jealousy, Bébé attacked him and was beaten by order of the king. His health declined soon after. By 20, his body was frail, bent, and prematurely aged. He died in 1764. His skeleton was later displayed for study in Paris. His clothes and furniture survive in museums, but not his dignity. Bébé's story isn't of fame or glory, it's of how cruelty often hides behind the word entertainment. He was adored, yes, but of course never respected. Number 9. The Mammoth Lady. Susan Barton was known only by her title, the Mammoth Lady. A drawing published by Currier and Ives in 1849 is almost the only proof that she existed. She was said to weigh 579 pounds, her waist over 7 feet around. Whether true or circus exaggeration, the numbers were enough. Barnum's American Museum hired her soon after, and people paid to stare. Nothing about her life survives. No letters, no interviews, no trace of her voice. Just the image of a woman standing still while the world watched. It's unclear if she saw it as work or humiliation, but either way it paid the bills. She stood under a banner that defined her only by weight. The crowds laughed, whispered, and moved on. She stayed behind the curtain, silent. Susan's story ends there. No scandal, no spectacle. Just a woman who carried the burden of both her body and other people's judgment. History kept her size and lost everything else. Number 8. The Minnesota Woolly Girl. Alice Doherty was born in Minneapolis in 1887 with hypertrichosis lanuginosa, a condition that covered her face and body in long, silky blonde hair. Promoters called her the Minnesota Woolly Girl, a title she never chose. Her family managed her career, showing her in dime museums across the Midwest. She was gentle, quiet, and polite. Nothing like the fierce nicknames that followed her. Her condition made her unique, but it also trapped her. While Jojo the dog-faced boy and Lionel the lion-faced man became international stars, Alice's fame stayed small town. She had no powerful backer, just a family trying to make ends meet. By 1915, she retired from exhibition, fading from public record. Photos show a girl with calm eyes, hair cascading like a mane, staring past the lens. She never sought fame. She was born into it and carried it softly. Alice Doherty wasn't a monster or a miracle, just a woman trying to live in peace. Number 7. Count Primo Magri. Count Primo Magri was small in size but huge in showmanship. Standing 2 feet 8 inches tall, he married Lavinia Warren, widow of General Tom Thumb, on Easter Monday, 1885 in New York City. The couple lived for the spotlight. They opened a roadside attraction in Massachusetts and toured the world performing plays like The Rivals and Gulliver among the Lilliputians, entertaining both everyday audiences and royalty, including Queen Victoria herself. Some claimed Magri's Count title came from Pope Pius IX, while others said it was pure circus branding. His alleged twin, Giuseppe, also performed under names like Baron Littlefinger. Together, the Magris built a comfortable life through hard work, publicity, and constant travel. In 1915, Primo appeared in a silent film, The Lilliputians' Courtship, alongside Lavinia, who played his on-screen niece. He kept performing right up until his death in 1920. Small stature or not, Count Magri lived like a professional, steady, proud, and always dressed for the stage. Number 6. Alfredo Codona. Alfredo wasn't built for safety nets. He came from a long circus line, the Codonas of southern Mexico, and became the best aerialist of his time. He was the first to master the triple somersault, a move still legendary in circus history. His timing was perfect, his presence magnetic. He married aerialist Clara Curtin in 1917, divorced her, then married Lillian Leitzel, another high-wire star. Their relationship was volatile. Love, ego, and danger rolled together. In 1931, Lillian fell during a show in Copenhagen and died 2 days later. Alfredo never recovered. He tried to keep working, but an accident injured his shoulder, grounding him for good. Depression followed. He remarried, but it didn't help. In 1937, broken and angry, Alfredo shot his third wife, Vera Bruce, then himself. He was only 32. Codona lived and died by the same rule. Height was everything. The higher he went, the harder the fall, and his final one left no survivors. Number 5. Ella Harper. Ella was born in Hendersonville, Tennessee, after the Civil War. Her knees bent backward, a rare condition that made walking upright painful. She moved best on all fours, which is how she became the Camel Girl. Crowds didn't see the person, they saw the posture. In 1886, showman W.H. Harris offered her $200 a week to join his nickel-plate circus, pairing her beside a camel to drive the comparison home. She agreed, worked one season, and quit. That short tour made her famous, but it also exhausted her. She'd had enough of the gawking. After leaving the circus, she disappeared from show records and focused on her education. Little else is known, except that tragedy followed her family. Her father died in a house fire in 1899. Her brother Willie passed 5 years later. Ella never returned to the stage. She left behind no big statement, just the quiet truth of a woman who walked her own way, literally and otherwise. Number 4. Edward Mordrake. Life is beautiful, but for this man, it was a waking horror. Edward Mordrake was said to be a young English noble with everything: intelligence, wealth, and striking looks, except peace. On the back of his head, doctors claimed, was another face, twisted, mocking, and alive. It was said to sneer when he smiled and to cry when he wept. At night, the second face supposedly whispered to him, filthy, hateful things that only he could hear. He begged surgeons to remove it, but no one dared try. According to legend, at 23, Edward ended his own life, leaving a note asking that the devil's face be destroyed after death. His story appeared in an 1896 medical text, Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine, written as if true. It wasn't. Edward never existed. The tale was fiction, built on sideshow rumor. Yet the myth refused to die, surviving as a symbol of beauty cursed by deformity, and curiosity darker than truth itself. He was just a man. Number 3. Aloisia Vagner. Aloisia, known by her stage name Violetta, was born in Germany without arms or legs. That didn't stop her from building a long career in the spotlight. She moved to New York with her stepbrother and began performing in sideshows like Coney Island's Dreamland and Ringling Brothers. She used her mouth and shoulders to do what others used hands for: sewing, combing hair, writing, and dressing herself. Audiences expected pity. She gave them grace. Critics described her as elegant and poised, calling her the beautiful armless and legless Venus. She married later in life, wearing her wedding ring on a chain around her neck. Violetta kept her independence and dignity intact, even when the business didn't treat her kindly. She worked for years until 1940, when she died. She didn't need sympathy or shock to hold attention. She was skilled, composed, and proud. Proof that strength doesn't always come with limbs attached. Number 2. Daniel Kajanus. Daniel Mynheer. Kajanus, aka the Swedish giant, stood around 7 feet 8 inches tall, a mountain of a man in the 1700s. Born in Finland to a clergyman, he left home young and joined the Potsdam Giants, a regiment of exceptionally tall soldiers. He later toured Europe, appearing in courts and theaters from Poland to Paris, and was received by King Louis XV himself. Kajanus eventually moved to London, where his height drew scientists, artists, and curious crowds. Portraits of him still hang in museums, his long arms and tired eyes captured in ink. He spent his later years in Haarlem, living quietly in the Provenierschweiz and writing poetry. When he died in 1749, he ordered a heavy coffin buried deep in stone to keep grave robbers away. They didn't listen. His bones ended up in anatomy museums. Even in death, Kajanus was displayed. His body was his income, his burden, and his legacy, all measured in inches. Now let's move to number 1. Johnny Eck. Johnny Eck's body ended at his waist, but that never defined him. Born in Baltimore in 1911, he had small, non-functional legs that he kept strapped under a harness. His twin brother, Robert, was fully formed, and the two built an act together. In magician Raja Raboid's 1937 show, Robert was placed in a box and sawed in half, only for Johnny to crawl out, sending the crowd into panic. Before that, Johnny had been performing since age 12, joining Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and Ripley's Believe It or Not. He even appeared in Tarzan films and the 1933 classic Freaks. Later, the twins returned to Baltimore, opening a penny arcade and running a miniature train ride for kids. Johnny also painted, made model displays, and performed for neighbors until old age. He didn't need pity or applause, just a stage and something to create. Eck stayed a showman until his last breath. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you in the next one.